having trouble trying to sleep. I'm counting sheep but running out. As time ticks by, still I try. No rest for cross-tops in my mind. On my own, here we go. My eyes feel like they're gonna bleed. Right up in bulging out my skull. My mouth's dry. My face is numb. Fucked up and spun out in my room. On my own, here we go. Mind is set on overdrive. The clock is laughing in my face. Crooked spine. My senses dull. That's the point of delirium. On my own, here we go. I feel like they're gonna bleed. Right up and bulging out my skull. My mouth's dry. Face is numb. Fucked up and spun out in my room. On my own, here we go.
Oh, I'm tiny. Hello, this is Hedorah here, amongst a review, and today we are reviewing, well, double review. I should have made it a triple review because I will be also reviewing Jurassic World Dominion, but I'm going to say that for another review because I have to watch Superman first because I'm going to make that into a triple review about the movies that came out this year. But with that said, let's talk about these two movies, these very shitty movies. Godzilla's Revenge. Yeah, what can't be said about this film as hasn't been already said before. This film's garbage. I'm sorry. I don't understand the love that this film gets. I really don't. I just don't understand the love that this film gets. And here's the thing. I watched the Japanese version. And the Japanese version is way worse than the freaking American version of Godzilla's Revenge. It's way worse. I watched the Japanese version of Godzilla's Revenge, and that it's just bad. No matter which version you watch, it's bad. I just don't understand the love that this film gets from fans everywhere. I just don't get it because the characters are annoying. The bad guys are annoying. No character is relatable. You can't relate to any of these characters in this goddamn movie because they're not on screen long enough. Like, what about the babysitter? Oh, what about the that guy, the toy maker? He doesn't really do anything because he's just there just to babysit the kid. Then he goes off. Then he does some stupid shit by leaving the kid alone and maybe, I don't know, see if he's in there or try to break in and see if he's in the door. I know that's kind of wrong, but you might want to check up on the kid you were supposed to watch. That's just common sense. You can't just leave a kid unsupervised and just go party off with some detectives at a bar, at a ramen bar place. And then you have the most annoyingest kid I've ever seen in a kaiju movie, Ichiro. I know a lot of people say that he's relatable and that they can relate to Ichiro, but I'm sorry, he is not relatable. He is not relatable to, in any circumstances, he is not a relatable kaiju character. I just don't see the but people gravitate towards Ichiro because he's so annoying. He is the most annoying and filtering character, and I can understand why the bullies bully him. He's fucking annoying. Makes me side with the freaking bullies. And speaking of the bullies, they're not even bullies. They don't even do the bully message right. Like, the bullies, all they want him to do is pull a prank. How is that bullying? They just want him to pull a prank. That's not really bullying. That's just wanting you to pull a prank. That's not how bullying works. That's all they want him to do throughout the entire movie is have him pull a prank. And even when they are fishing, like every instance that they are meeting up, that the bullies interact with him, it's not really bullying. Like, first instance, they don't. They just want him to pull a prank. Second instance, they just want to fish with him. Yes, in that instance, they do go try to find him, but the only reason why is because they just want to hang out with him. They're not really bullying him. That's what I got from that. They probably just wanted to hang out with him. They didn't want to bully him. They don't come off as real bullies, and I don't think the people of this film know what bullying is, or even took advice from someone who's got bullied. I don't think they took that. Because these bullies don't come off as real bullies in this film. They just come off as guys who just want to pull pranks. Just jokesters. They're not really bullies. That's not what a bully is. There's a difference between pranksters and bullies. Those two are totally different things. These guys come off more as pranksters than freaking bullies. That's what I got from that. They come off as more as pranksters than bullies. They're not really bullies. They're more pranksters. There's a difference. But my God, these kids are so... But the kids in this film are so annoying because they do some of the most idiotic things. Like, a lot of these characters do the most idiotic things. Like the mother, what does she do? Okay, I can't say nothing about the mother because the mother and the dad are at least trying in this movie. Those are the only two characters who are at least trying to make it decent. That's all I can say that's positive about this movie. That the mom and the dad are at least trying to make this season for a crappy movie that this is. This is Those are the only two characters who are at least trying, but it doesn't help that the son is a fucking idiot and it's Ichiro. So even that is a bit of a waste. Because they're trying for nothing. They're trying to help Ichiro, who's a bit annoying, who doesn't care about their parents. Ichiro doesn't care about his parents. He just ignores them and just uses them. But my god, Ichiro is the most sufferingest character in this movie. But let's stop talking about the human characters of this movie, because Ichiro's annoying. He does some of the dumbest stuff in this fucking movie. I hate him. I fucking hate Ichiro. He's the most annoyingest character I've ever seen in a kaiju movie. Let's talk about the kaiju. Oh wait, there's no kaiju. There's only Godzilla and Godzilla. The rest is just source footage from other movies. Wow. Great way to celebrate your 50th anniversary. Just have nothing but stock footage. This, like I said before, in like my older review, when I reviewed this back on the channel like 5 years ago, I said this film could have been so much more. So much more. It could have been so much more. This film could have been the peak could have been peak Showa if they actually shot new scenes. If they shot new scenes. Like, what if Kamekiris and Kumonga both fought Godzilla in the movie in new footage with the new suits? Or what if three Kamekiris and Kumonga fought Godzilla in the new movie with a new suit? That would have made it for a good scene. And Ebra, maybe he comes on land, and that would have made a good scene because we never seen Ebra on land before. We only seen him in the water. That would have been for a good scene in the movie. But no, they decide, and even for the giant condor, I guess they could. Actually, that one is probably the only one that makes sense for stock footage. But because that scene is ridiculous, I'm not sure if you want to shoot that twice. Maybe just make. Plus, the giant condor pop was pretty old at the time. It was probably like what, like a decade old. So it makes sense. Why? But it doesn't make sense for Ebra, Kumonga, and Kamekiris because those suits are still brand new. They're not that old. They're only 3 years old. They're not that old. I don't know. But these suits. But I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie because, my god, the stock footage is just stock footage. There's nothing to it. It's some of the most laziest editing I've ever seen. Like, there's shots where they do show no footage. Like, they show a rock landing on some trees. That's new footage. They show new footage of Kamekiris. That's about it. That's all you're gonna get from new footage until the climax. Well, that's not true. You get new footage of Godzilla and teaching his son how to be fire. Because why not? Why can't we just have that repeated twice? But the rest is just stock footage. It's basically the clip show the movie. This movie fucking sucks because it's just clip show the goddamn movie. I'm sorry. Why do people find that entertaining? That is not entertaining whatsoever. That is not entertaining. That is boring as hell. That is the most infamous thing. That is the most infuriating thing I've ever seen. That is the most. The stock footage is just bad because it's just stock footage and it's not even good stock footage. It's from the crappiest Godzilla movies I've ever seen. It's from the other crappy Godzilla movies, like Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and Son of Godzilla. Those are the most worst movies you could have chose out of all the Godzilla movies prior to this. You choose Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and Son of Godzilla. You could have chose any other scene from the other movies, but you chose Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and Son of Godzilla. Why? Was it because those were the only two movies that had islands on it? You could have chose a mountain area. Like heck, you could have even used King Kong again because he was in a mountain area. He was in a mountain area. You could have chose that scene. That scene would have made more sense. Actually, you know what? If you were gonna use stock footage, why use better movies for your stock footage? You could have used, I don't know, Invasion of the Action Monsters and have Godzilla and Rodan fight against King Hedorah, or you could have used that mount, or you could use the mountain scene of when Godzilla, Mothra, and Geras and Rodan fought Ghidorah. Or you could have used, well, I don't think Mothra vs. Godzilla will probably work here because that could work. You could use the Mothra versus Lava suits. You can use the Lava and Mothra Godzilla. Lava and Mothra Godzilla. And you could have altered the footage to make it look like that Godzilla won. You could have used your stock footage very well, but no, you decided to choose the worst movies. The only two movies that they actually use that are actually legitimately good are Destroy All Monsters and King Kong. Well, Destroy All Monsters is boring. I really don't care for that film, but King Kong Escapes is the only movie that's in this film, but they only use the Ghost Sword shot. That's the only scene they use. The Ghost Sword shot. All the scene is just selfish from either Destroy All Monsters, Son of Godzilla, Emperor Horde Deep, or King Kong Escapes. That's about it. You don't get much. This scene is just, the way they use the stock footage in this movie is just terrible. Let me look that up. The way they use the stock footage in this movie is just fucking atrocious. And even the newest thing that they use is basically just the worst kaiju you've ever seen, who's really just a stand-in for King Kong. I'm not gonna lie, he's just a stand-in for King Kong. I know when people will say, like, wait, what do you mean a stand-in for King Kong? He's the original kaiju. No, he's not. He's basically just King Kong. It's mostly because they didn't have the. I have a theory that didn't have the budget for King Kong for this film. Like I have a feeling that King Kong was originally supposed to be in this film because if you look at the shots, because for one, he acts like a mighty ape. He bullies. He acts like an ape. So, and he also has electricity powers. So there might be some King Kong similarities there. Like I have a feeling King Kong was originally supposed to be in this film, but they scrapped him at the last second and just made a new suit and just made Gabba because there are some similarities between King Kong and Gabba a little bit. Slight similarities between King Kong and Gabba. And I mean by slightly, I mean slight similarities between King Kong and Gabba. Yeah. And I'm mostly just referring to the electricity powers because Kong has that. So, yeah. I'm not a really big fan of Gabba. Gabba is probably the weakest monster in the Kaiju universe because at least the other monsters in the franchise at least do some stuff. Heck, even that Bug Kaiju, yes, it's small, but at least it did some stuff. This monster doesn't do anything. He doesn't do nothing. He is the weakest monster in the entire franchise because he doesn't fight Godzilla. He's not really a threat to anybody. He's not a threat to the humans. He's not a threat to Manila. Well, he's a threat to Manila, but that's about it. But the only reason why is because he's too scared to fight Godzilla. He's a fucking pussy. He is nothing. He is the most. This newest kaiju that they show is the most. Is the worst kaiju in the franchise. I'll say it there. He is the worst kaiju in the franchise. Next to Manila. because Milla's a little bit worse. But he's just bad. I'm sorry. Gabba is just the worst kaiju. I just hate it. And Milla isn't any better because he talks. He fucking talks. They talk now, I guess. That seeing Milla talk is weird. Very, very weird. I'm sorry. I'm not a biggest fan of this movie. This movie's just bad. I just hate this movie. This movie's so goddamn awful. I'd rather not watch this movie again because this movie's just bad. It's just bad. It's real bad. It's the most infuriating watch I've ever seen. My god. And the climax of this movie is just bad, and there's bad editing with the human scenes. Because there's three climaxes in the movie. There's a climax with Godzilla, Gabba, and Manoa, that's a climax. And then there's a climax with the robbers, that's a climax. And then there's a climax with the bullies, that's a climax. So there's three climaxes in this movie because they didn't know how to end the fucking movie. They couldn't end the movie at the middle of the climax, but you know what? No, they had to solve unfinished stuff. And that ends at the 50-minute mark with 20 minutes left in the movie. And the rest is nothing but kaiju. Nothing but kaiju. The rest is nothing but human scenes. Nothing but human scenes. They couldn't add in more stock footage into the. Why couldn't they add more stock footage? Oh, maybe, I don't know, show some more new scenes like Gabba getting his comeuppance and coming back to fight Godzilla. That would have been. You could have done something with Gabba, but no, they decided, nah, just nah. We don't have the budget for this, which is end the kaiju scenes. I understand that Toho's budget was slightly slashed, but that doesn't excuse the lazy editing for the stock footage. You could have chose better movies for this film. I'm sorry. For the 50th, this is the 15th anniversary film. And this is how you choose to do your movie. To make the worst movie I've ever seen put to life. This is the worst Godzilla movie, period. I don't understand the love that this film gets. I just don't. It's not peak. It's garbage. It's peak garbage. It's the worst film I've ever seen. It's the worst Godzilla film. I hate this film. This film is arguably the worst. I just hate it. I just fucking hate this film. There's nothing good about it. The only thing good that I can the only three things good I can say about this film is the soundtrack. The soundtrack's pretty good, and the parents. Those and the parents of Ichiro. Those are the only two things I can say that are actually legitimately good about this film. Everything else is just bad. Everything. When it comes to characters, everything is bad except for the parents. Everything is bad about this film. Nothing is good about this goddamn film because all the characters are bad. None of the kaiju scenes are good because they're all stock footage except for the Malilla and Gabba scenes with Godzilla. And Godzilla teaching how his son to be fire again. None of these scenes are good. This movie is the worst movie, period. I fucking hate this movie. And after this movie, Malilla just completely disappears until Final Wars. He just completely disappears till Final Wars. And before anybody says, no, it's not the same. No, he doesn't come back in the Heisei era. No, that's a different Godzilla. That's a different Godzilla son. That's way better. They do a way better job with Godzilla son in the Heisei era. Malilla doesn't come back till Final Wars, okay? He doesn't come back till Final Wars. They do a way better job of Godzilla's son in the Heisei era, okay? But my god, I just fucking hate Malilla. Malilla, fuck that little shit. Okay. Now that I spent like 25 minutes on Godzilla's Revenge, I guess I can move over to Godzilla's Hedorah. I may have said this in the past on live streams and on tier lists that I said I don't like Godzilla vs. Hedorah, But you know what? I ain't gonna lie. This film might have gone up, not by much, but up a little bit. It's still in the bottom seven. Don't get me wrong. It's still bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's still bad. Don't get me wrong. It's bad. It's pretty bad. It's the weirdest Godzilla film, but I don't think it's as bad as I don't think it's as bad as bottom two, maybe by bottom seven. I still hate this film. Don't get me wrong. Some of the scenes are bizarre and weird. It's Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Some of the characters are pretty idiotic. We can't get the characters in that film are idiotic. They make idiotic decisions. And we got another Kenny. Yay. Back to back movies with Kennys. Great. Just fucking great. This Kenny is also annoying. And knows a lot of things that he shouldn't know. Like why. I'm assuming because he's a Kenny. And I was actually hoping that this kid died by the end of this film. I was actually hoping that he get killed by Hedorah. I didn't. Oh my god, this kid's so annoying. Why can't we just go back to the adult human? Oh yeah, the adult human characters are idiotic too. They're idiots. They're fucking idiots. These none of the human characters are smart. Even the scientists who's trying to study Hedorah, he's not that bright because the kid has to tell him everything. And yes, he does come up with some ideas on how to beat Hedorah, but you know what? He doesn't really do much for the film because he's just sitting on his butt all day. He's just sitting in his bed. I understand he's healing from some injuries. I understand he's healing from Hedorah, but he's just sitting all day doing nothing. Nothing. And you know what? We actually do see him get up, you know, later on in the film, doing some stuff, doing some sciencey things. Why is he not doing anything? Why is he not doing anything throughout the film? Is he like too injured to do stuff? I'm assuming that's the reason why he can't do stuff in the film. Like he can't go anywhere from his house. I don't know. But we do see him stand in the film. He's standing pretty good. He doesn't look like he's hurting or anything. He does sit down. I don't understand why people think he's of good character. None of these characters are good. I don't like the characters in the film. I think the characters are idiotic. Make some idiotic decisions, and they're pretty boring to be honest. A lot of these characters in these films are a lot of these characters in Godzilla vs. Hedorah are boring. They're just boring to be honest. They're just boring. I just don't gravitate towards them. I don't understand the love that this film gets because the film is just bizarre. I know I know where the love comes from. It comes from Hedorah. Hedorah himself does some pretty cool shit. When he's on screen by himself, he does some pretty cool stuff. Like he does some pretty cool stuff. But when Godzilla and Hedorah are on screen, yeah. It's pretty boring. Yeah. They're just doing the electric side, seeing who can do side moves and who can wave at each other more. It's the most boringest thing you've ever seen. One of the most boringest kaiju fights ever. They don't really interact at all. Yeah. Um, yeah. Kaiju fight in this movie is pretty bad. The first fight with Godzilla versus Hedorah land form, that's not really a good fight. It's not. It's pretty bad. I don't really love that fight, and it doesn't really do anything. There's nothing to that fight that gravitates us. They're just standing there. Yeah, some just not very much happens in that fight. And in the climax, of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, not much happens either. They're just standing around doing nothing. Yeah, some crazy stuff happens, but that's about it. Hedorah's and Godzilla just gets his butt kicked throughout the whole fight. To be honest, he just gets his butt kicked until he gets his comeuppance once the electricity power comes on the electricity panels. Oh yeah, that's the thing. The doctor invented electricity panels and discovered that Hedorah's weakness is electricity because reasons. I don't understand why they had to have Hedorah's electricity have Hedorah have the same weakness as Godzilla. Because Godzilla is also weakness in the Showa is electricity. But that's kind of complicated of how that works because I'm not really sure. Is it like certain types of electricity? Because that doesn't really. Because wouldn't the electricity panels just kill Godzilla and Hedorah? They would have killed Godzilla and Hedorah. That would have done. This movie makes no sense. Yeah, it just doesn't. Also, apparently Godzilla cries in this movie. Yeah, remember that ending that people said that Godzilla cries after thinking of some pollution? Yeah, that's actually true. He does cry. Godzilla does physically cry in the movie, at least in the Japanese version. He does cry towards thinking of pollution. So, yeah. I didn't think that was actually true, but apparently it is. He does cry thinking of Japanese. He does cry of thinking of pollution. Huh. Okay. Didn't think that was true. Okay. Learn something new every day. Anyway, I don't really like. I don't really like this movie. This movie is pretty bad. It's probably bottom seven. I do think there are movies that are worse than this film, but I don't hate it as much as I used to. After we watch, it doesn't. I don't hate it as much. I still hate it. Don't get me wrong. I still hate it. I still think it's in bottom seven. But yeah, bottom seven is still bottom seven. Okay, it's still bottom seven. I just don't hate it as much as I used to. Godzilla vs. Zora, most like should be called Godzilla vs. Boredom Monster. Because this is pretty boring. This film is pretty boring. I think my last time I watched this, I pretty much fell asleep. That's no joke. I fell asleep to this movie. It was pretty boring. I fell asleep. This time I actually stayed up, but yeah. I can't really gravitate toward this movie because none of the characters are interesting. I don't understand the love that this film gets. A lot of these characters are pretty boring, pretty bad. The kaiju scenes are not really interesting. There's not really much to this film that makes it stand out to the rest of other kaiju films. It doesn't. It's. I will say this: some of the scenes are pretty bizarre. Some of the human scenes are pretty bizarre. Like when they're in, there are some bizarre human scenes. Like there's a scene when they're in a nightclub or something. I don't know, but apparently some guy must be someone must have put something in his drink because he must be high off his mind because he sees some fish heads and I don't we don't get an explanation on how he sees these fish heads, but apparently I'm just assuming someone put some drugs in his drinks. So yeah. That's just my theory that someone put some drugs in his drink. Or, uh, I know they don't say it, but it just comes off like someone put something in his drink, make him go high. Yeah, he's pretty high in that scene, and it's like, yeah, that scene is pretty bizarre. There's some bizarre scenes of weird shit happening. Like there's these bizarre cartoon edits that they have. I think there's like three of those in this film, and it's really weird. It's really bizarre cartoon edits. Like it doesn't make any sense in the film. Was it? I think the only reason why they have those cartoon edits because they didn't have it in the budget to actually show Hedorah doing these things, so they had to make a cartoon edit. That's probably the reason why they have the cartoon edits because they didn't have it in the budget to actually show Hedorah doing these things. So yeah, okay. That's probably the reason why they have those cartoon edits is because they don't have it in the budget to actually show Hedorah doing these things on the suit. Yeah, and the scenes are pretty bad. It's just that, and there's also this weird people talking. Like all of a sudden, there's a news report, and then all of a sudden, tons of people are talking, and it's one of the most bizarre things ever because it happens twice back to back. It just happens with people talking, baby is getting drowned in mud, in pollution, people talking. Also, who? Why would the parents just let the baby do that? That's just gonna traumatize the baby. Oh my god, that must be traumatizing for the baby. I feel sorry for that baby, who's probably all grown up and thinks of that moment. It's like, hey, you remember Godzilla Hedorah? You remember when you? I wonder if, I wonder if that kid, that grown up baby, actually gets asked, hey, weren't you that baby from Godzilla Hedorah? Is like, yes, I was. It brings back traumatizing memories. That's pretty dark, but yeah, yeah, but I felt sorry for that baby. Yeah, I also feel sorry for that cat that also got smelled in sludge. Why would they do that to a cat? That poor cat. That poor cat. The cat had nothing to do. That cat had nothing to do with the film. That poor kitty. Poor kitty. And apparently there's also a goose. That goose. That poor goose. That poor goose. Yeah, those are, and those fishes. Those poor fishes. Poor, poor skipper. Poor skipper. Poor friend. Poor friend. Flounder, skipper, gubby, those four fishes. Those four fishes. Yeah. Babies and animals were harmed in the making of this film. Yeah. There's a lot of weird scenes in this film. A lot of weird scenes in this film. Like, there's this weird scene at the end, near the end, like when they're partying. There's these weird ghost guys. I'm assuming they're ghosts because for some strange reason, because for some strange reason, these ghost guys, I'm assuming they're ghosts. I'm assuming they're ghosts or spectators because that's what they are. They have nothing to do with the film. They don't really do anything, and they're just standing there looking scary. I'm assuming they're spectators. I'm assuming they're ghost spectators or something. I don't know what they are. They really don't do anything. It's pretty bizarre. And it's pretty weird. I just. It's some of the most bizarre scenes I've seen in this movie. Yeah. And then the fights are pretty bad. Yeah, I've already talked about that. That's pretty it. There's not really much to this film. I just don't understand the love. Yeah. I do. My thoughts, overall thoughts on this film, I think it went up a little bit. Not by much, but it went up. I still think it's bottom seven Godzilla films. I still think it's the bottom seven. It's still F. Don't get me wrong. An F is an F. It's still F tier for me. It's still the bottom seven. I still think it's one of the worst, the top seven worst Godzilla films. But I don't think it's, and I do think it's the bottom four Showa films. But it's near the bottom four Showa films. I do think that. But I don't hate it as much. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've just been watching so many bad movies this year. There hasn't really haven't been any good movies this year. There hasn't been really a good movie this year. Like a lot of movies have been bad. Like I've been bad, not really good. Yeah, I don't know. Like the only good movies that came out this year are pretty much Rebirth and okay, but those are the only two good movies that came out this year. I haven't seen Superman, so I might, yeah. Also, sick. Yeah, that's about it for this video. Hedorah, bad, still bad, but not as bad as before. I don't think it's bottom two anymore. So yeah, Godzilla's Revenge, still bottom, still at the bottom, still at the way bottom, still the worst Godzilla movies ever. It's still the worst. I'm sorry, I don't think it's peak. It's not peak. It's peak garbage. Yeah, I'll give you that. It's peak garbage. Peak garbage. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you in the next one when I'll probably do like a triple review because after this I'm gonna be watching Superman. Yeah. So with that said, as I always off, and remember, stay big, G fans. See you next one. Bye.